I'll make sure to say hello to everyone too. Hey everyone, this is Chris Bishop. We'll get started in just a few minutes.
I'd sit alone and watch your light, my only friend through teenage nights, and everything I had to know, I heard it on my radio. You gave them all those old time stars, through wars and worlds invaded by Mars. You made them laugh, you made them cry. You made us feel like we could fly. So don't be caught, some background noise, a backed up for the girls and boys who just don't know or just don't care and just don't think when you're not there. You had the time, you had the power, you used to have your finest star. All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo Goo, Radio Gaga. All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Gaga. Radio what's new? Radio, someone still loves you. We watch the shows, we watch the stars on videos for hours and hours. We hardly need to use our ears. Our music changes through the years. Let's hope you never leave our friends like other things on you we depend. So stick around, 'cause we might miss you when we grow tired of all this vision. You had the time, you had the power, you yet to have your finest hour. Radio.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining. We'll get started here in just about 1 or 2 more minutes, just letting some people filter in.
This ain't a song for the broken hearted. A silent prayer for faith departed. I ain't gonna be just a face in the crowd. You're gonna hear my voice when I shout it out loud. It's my life, it's now or never.
All right, everybody. All right, hope you enjoyed the music. We're going to get rolling here. So I'll kick things off. Hello and welcome to today's webinar. It's focused on CDW's rapid migration offer for AWS. I'm Chris Bishop. I'm an AWS focus leader here at CDW, and I'm joined by two of my cloud migration experts and professionally certified AWS solution architects, Tim Keating and Taylor Lewick. Just to lighten things up on the front end here, we're enjoying our first snowfall here in Chicago. It looks like a snow globe outside, so hopefully everyone on the phone is in somewhere a little bit warmer and nicer. We're enjoying the great white north up here. So we've got some content today about 20 minutes from a housekeeping perspective. We'll leave some time for Q&A, but we will take questions live in the chat as we go through the information. So over the next 30 minutes, we're really going to discuss CDW's unique position in the market, how we support our 250,000 customers in their cloud and digital transformation initiatives, and we'll focus this discussion on cloud migration strategies for AWS. We're going to highlight some of the current investments and program benefits that CDW can help you secure, and then we'll walk through our unique rapid migration offer with real customer examples from migrations that my team's completed in the last 6 months. As I mentioned, we're happy to take questions today through the chat window. We've got some folks on that can help MC that, and then we'll dedicate some time at the end to just do some live Q&A with Tim, Taylor, and myself. Okay, so let's first kick things off by just touching on CDW's position in the market. So most of you are probably familiar with CDW from a legacy perspective. So, we started out as a small business in 1984, and we've grown to a Fortune 200 enterprise business partner that's really dedicated to serving and supporting our customers' IT needs across the globe. So we're a global organization. Many of you know us as that traditional value-added reseller, which is still absolutely a core strength of our business. But we have evolved through both and reinvented ourselves, frankly, through both organic growth and strategic acquisitions that you're seeing on the right-hand side of this slide. And what this does, or what this has done for CDW, is it's established ourselves as a global system integrator with multi-cloud managed service provider capabilities. And just the bottom line here is CDW can help you procure cloud services, adopt and integrate those services, and then finally, we can handle full management of your cloud estate, and that's across AWS, Azure, and GCP. The team that does this at CDW, the group that I'm part of, is called Digital Velocity. And so I wanted to share just a little bit about Digital Velocity, and then we'll jump into some of the AWS specific content. But Digital Velocity is really the technical solutions integration and consulting arm of CDW. So we help our customers optimize and leverage the latest tech services and adhere to industry best practices across a ton of leading edge areas. This includes things you're seeing on the slide here like observability, software engineering, IoT, generative AI. But for today's discussion, we're really going to focus on our cloud and cloud native capabilities. So in our experience with cloud migrations, they're often driven by a few common themes. And this is shown here. These are data points from a Flexera report called State of the Cloud, and also supported by our own experience. But we see customers we see them moving to the cloud to reduce and eliminate traditional infrastructure costs, right? That's kind of the of course, Chris moment. But when they do that, they're able to refocus their teams on higher value activities and tasks versus just maintaining that physical infrastructure. The cloud offers them the ability to achieve operational resilience and really improve their security posture while reducing downtime along the way. And lastly, the other thing that we see is customers looking to the cloud or migrating to the cloud to accelerate time to market on new services and capabilities that they want to bring to their end customers. So these are some of the things that help set the stage on CDW's capabilities, cloud migration, business drivers, and outcomes. And I'm now going to turn it over to Tim Keating, who's going to drill deeper into the AWS migration framework. Tim, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Okay. So as Chris mentioned, I'm an AWS solutions architect here at CDW. I have over 25 years in tech and came to CDW from AWS, where I was a solutions architect and a storage specialist. And it's my great pleasure to be here with you today. Chris just talked about why companies are migrating to the cloud. I'd like to talk about why companies migrate to the cloud with CDW. As a premier tier services partner, we've been recognized by AWS as a leader in the markets that we serve, and we've achieved several AWS solutions competencies. We have deep technical expertise and have demonstrated successful migrations with a large number of customers at scale. As a CDW client, you have access to a team of highly technical professionals with extensive industry experience and hundreds of AWS certifications and accreditations. So you've got pre-sales solutions architects such as Taylor and myself, business development managers who can help you understand the intricacies of AWS private pricing agreements, delivery engineers and architects who are experts at cloud implementation and migration, as well as technical account managers who can support your AWS environment post-migration as part of our Cloud Lifecycle Services team. So while the rapid migration offer that we're here to talk about today is the best way, in our opinion, to get into AWS when velocity is the main concern, there's still the traditional journey that's the choice for many of our clients depending on their circumstances. So the AWS Migration Acceleration Program, or MAP, is built on 3 phases to systematically help you accomplish the migration journey. MAP starts with the assess phase that includes a migration readiness assessment, or MRA, as well as the creation of a total cost of ownership, or TCO, report for your company's migration. The MRA helps you identify gaps along the 6 perspectives and foundational capabilities of the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework. These are namely business, people, governance, platform, security, and operations. It enables you to identify the organizational and technical capabilities required to migrate to AWS. The mobilize phase helps you build an operational foundation for your migration with the goal of fixing the foundational capabilities gaps that we identify in the assessment phase. Mobilize accelerates your migration decisions by providing clear guidance on migration plans that improve your chances for a successful migration. Mobilize includes the 4 accelerators pictured here, namely portfolio, migrate, people, and platform, and the level of activity required in these work streams is determined by the readiness levels that we document during the MRA. Mobilize activities include a deep dive analysis of your proposed workloads for migration, the design and implementation of an AWS Control Tower landing zone, creation of a Cloud Center of Excellence charter, as well as the actual migration of a recommended 3 to 5 applications, which is how your teams build migration capabilities alongside our experts from CDW. Mobilize typically runs between 2 to 4 months and prepares you for large-scale migration into AWS. And finally, in the migrate and modernize phase, CDW Professional Services will build on your cloud foundation and help you execute the large-scale migration plan developed during the mobilize phase. So hundreds of customers have trusted CDW Professional Services to help them implement cloud environments in AWS with a focus on security, compliance, and industry standard best practices. And for 2024, AWS has rolled out a new streamlined incentive program for MAP that CDW is able to bring to our clients as a way to ease the transition into cloud, not only from an operations perspective, but also a financial one. MAP funding is based on net new incremental spend in AWS, which we refer to as annual recurring revenue, or ARR. The higher your spend in AWS, the greater the potential for funding. MAP funding is fulfilled in two ways, and typically projects will incorporate both. So assess and mobilize will utilize partner cash, which comes in the form of subsidies, which are paid to CDW and passed along to you in the form of discounts applied to services engagements. The migrate phase will yield customer credits, which are AWS consumption credits, which are used to lower your AWS bills post-migration. So full MAP starts with a minimum ARR of 500,000, and MAP Lite is between 100 to 500,000 ARR. For a minimum spend of $100,000, AWS will fund assess activities at 5% of ARR up to a max of $75,000. AWS will fund mobilize at 20% of ARR up to $2 million. And there are also special funding incentives for modernization services, for greenfield, and also migration off of VMware. Finally, in the migrate and modernize phase, AWS will pay between 15 to 25% of ARR in AWS services consumed, and they'll even pay that 15% of ARR if your ARR is 100 or below $100,000 a year. So a couple of examples here around maps. So let's take a customer that's migrating off of Hyper-V with an estimated ARR of $1 million. AWS will provide $50,000 to fund an assess engagement through CDW and an additional $200,000 for the mobilize phase, as well as $250,000 in AWS credits. A customer that has a $2 million ARR migrating off of VMware has the potential for $75,000 funding toward the assess phase, as well as $400,000 for mobilize. There's also an additional $100,000 with the VMware migration incentive and another $500,000 in backend credits. So as you can see, there are significant financial incentives that can help make the decision to migrate into AWS a tad bit easier. So now I'm going to pass it over to Taylor, and he's going to talk to you about our rapid migration offer. Taylor?
Hey, everyone. So quick introduction. My name's Taylor Lewick. I've been with CDW a little under a year now, and prior to this, I was also a former AWS. I was at AWS in their professional services division as a customer delivery architect. So Chris covered CDW's history and why clients are moving to the cloud, and Tim covered why CDW for cloud migrations and the AWS MAP program. I'd like to discuss how we've recently been helping clients move to the cloud with our rapid migration offer. So AWS Migration Acceleration Program, or MAP, as Tim covered, is a well-known, highly prescriptive framework that's been used for years now to help thousands of clients migrate to AWS. However, a few years ago, customers started giving AWS feedback that while MAP is great, for some migrations, it can be a little heavy-handed. AWS listened and took that feedback and proposed to partners a streamlined version of MAP. We work closely with AWS to build our rapid migration offer, which is a fixed fee per server migration aimed at rehost and replatform workloads. And it can also include a licensing assessment, business case for total cost of ownership reports, and we usually typically bundle a landing zone build out, single sign-on or Active Directory, and third-party integration. All traditional MAP funding that Tim covered still applies for rapid migration offer, and AWS currently has strong funding incentives for migrating off VMware-based workloads. So let's talk how we typically start this conversation with clients. We have an introduction call and we ask clients to explain their migration motivations. If clients are interested in moving to the cloud quickly and have rehost or replatform workloads, then we discuss RMO. We usually ask clients to send us either their RV tools output or similar host inventory output for non-VMware workloads. Once we receive this data, we then quickly estimate their overall migration cost, their annual AWS spend, or the ARR that Tim referred to, and the AWS funding amounts. We can typically have a high-level presentation ready back to a client within about 48 hours of receiving this data. During the presentation, we are diving deeper and to gather additional information, and then we can use that to create a migration statement of work. So as the first word in RMO implies, there are times when a client needs to rapidly migrate to the cloud. Top reasons we see for this are upcoming data center closures or data center lease expirations, or clients could be staring down significant hardware or software refreshes. So speaking of software refreshes, by now I'm sure many of you have heard of the Broadcom acquisition of VMware. We are hearing from multiple clients that their VMware license renewals have increased anywhere from 2 to 5 times over their previous commitments. This is forcing a lot of our clients to consider VMware alternatives. And at the same time, AWS has created significant funding for clients who are considering moving off of on-prem VMware to AWS. Also, I'd like to point out RMO doesn't have to be an all or none approach. The RMO framework resides within MAP, so RMO could be used for some portion of your migration, and the full MAP framework could be utilized if you have more complex applications. For example, running on hardware like mid-range, HPUX, Sun Solaris, AS400, etc. So I want to go through a couple of the RMO pricing and funding examples. These are actual like client funding examples. First one on the left is a Midwest-based manufacturing firm. They had 165 on-prem all VMware instances, roughly a 70-30 mix of Windows to Linux. Migration costs with the landing zone build out and Active Directory and single sign-on integration were just under 200,000. This client was facing a data center lease expiration. They opted not to renew, and they wanted to take advantage of cloud features for new applications. AWS funded over 90% of the total migration. In addition, they also provided $50,000 in service credits. Those service credits are help to reduce what they call double bubble costs, which is your cost that you're going to have when you're operating for a little while, both on-prem and in the cloud during your migration. In the second client example, we had a West Coast financial services client, 400 on-prem VMs, 90-10 mix of Windows to Linux, landing zone build out with Okta integration, utilizing Duo for multi-factor authentication. This time, AWS funded almost 80% of this migration, and this client's motivations were hardware refresh avoidance and VMware renewal cost avoidance. They also qualified for almost $160,000 in AWS credits, which again helps offset that the first few months of their AWS bill helps reduce that. And then one more client example, this time focusing on kind of a timeline and level of effort based view, kind of a sprint based view. This client's a large Midwest-based fast casual restaurant franchise. They had a smaller IT staff who was very comfortable with their on-prem data center operations, but they had a data center that was closing. They didn't want to renew the lease, and they had a lot of concern and some anxiety about how to operate in the cloud. They didn't have a lot of on-staff experience with that. So we started with rapid migration offer, added landing zone, AD and SSO integration, included a design for disaster recovery. We also included a pilot migration of several terabytes of their file server data to AWS FSx for Windows, which is a managed file service. To address their concerns about the day-to-day operation post-migration support, we discussed managed services, and they were open to that, but they really also wanted to kind of understand, they wanted their staff to be comfortable doing the post-migration operations themselves. So we included the teach them to fish model, and we included up to 200 hours of post-migration support. This engagement, including that post-migration support, was 100% funded by AWS. It came in right around $200,000. So quick recap, 3 real client migrations to AWS, 80%, 90%, 100% funded. So quick recap, Chris hit on CDW's history and our unique position in the market. Tim then walked us through CDW's migration experience and expertise with the AWS migration framework and available investments and funding. Lastly, I walked us through our rapid migration offer, which is a methodology we use when speed and velocity matters. So we'd like to talk to you further about your AWS migrations. You can connect with your CDW account manager or reach out to either one of us directly. We've included our contact information, and that concludes our presentation for today, but we're happy to take questions if there are any. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Taylor and Tim. As Taylor mentioned, we're here to take questions. We'll leave it open. I'll take a look at the queue right now. I don't see any questions quite coming through yet, but I guess I have one to kick things off, just to see if we can get some conversation going or share a little bit of some of the common questions. This isn't the first time we've done this presentation, so one of the things we do get asked is, all right, rapid migration offer. Taylor, Tim, what's kind of the ideal size from a customer perspective? You gave a few examples, but is this suitable for customers with just a handful of VMs or really large scale? What do you guys think about sort of preferred size from a VM count perspective?
I'll take a quick first stab at that, and then Tim, you can. We've smallest one we've done so far is around 50 servers. Largest is we're talking to a client who has over 2,000 VMs. Below 50, I mean, we can do any number, but much below start getting below 50, 40, 60, the cost, the cost that you're going to have to bear just to have like a landing zone set up, basic like network topology and VPC design, those are still going to be present whether you're moving 10 VMs or 2,000 VMs. So the cost per VM will seem higher. That's just because there's a certain amount of work that has to be done regardless of the number of servers that are being moved.
Yeah, to sort of reinforce something that Taylor just mentioned, when you're engaging with us, we're going to follow industry standard best practices, AWS best practices, and creating that account structure so we can keep security, repeatability, being able to enforce your standards across the entire AWS footprint is going to be very important. We do that with the concept of an AWS control tower landing zone, right? So that there is a sort of a minimum effort to get you into AWS following best practices. So as Taylor mentioned, the economies of scale, when you start to scale up the number of VMs that you're migrating, are a little bit better than if you have fewer VMs.
Great, thanks. I actually got a couple questions here in the panel. Looks like, well, let's first talk about just from a migration perspective, what's the expected level of downtime is the question I'm seeing. Can you guys speak a little bit to downtime, our experience with downtime, and what customers should expect during a migration effort?
Yeah, we strive for it. While it won't be zero downtime, we strive for minimal downtime. Typically we'll use the AWS application migration service, or some people may know of it as Cloud Endure or Migration Factory. It's the same service, it's just been renamed a few times. They have replication agents that are doing replication syncing, and when the servers are ready on the AWS side, we will do cutovers and wave planning. And we'll work with your teams to make sure, like, okay, when are your outage windows? Maybe the first few migrations, especially a pilot migration, which we do, we always include so that we can test all the infrastructure. We will make sure that those are done either during off hours or maintenance windows, or if it's non-production and they can be done during the day and during normal business hours, we'll start with those. Typically, that cutover window is minimal, maybe roughly an hour or so. You want to make sure that you're including any post-migration validation testing and steps like that. So you want to make sure you're doing any kind of quality checks to make sure that from both an infrastructure and an application point of view, the migration is going as smooth and as expected before you declare, hey, we've cut over this group of servers or this wave of applications into AWS. So while not zero downtime, we expect it to be minimal.
Got it. Thanks, Taylor. Tim, anything to add on that, or do you have one more question?
No, I think Taylor summed it up nicely.
Okay. All right, the next question I have out here is, so this customer, they've already signed MAP with another AWS partner. So what are the other ways that CDW could help?
I'll take that one.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I'll take that one. And so we spend a lot of our time talking to clients who already have an existing AWS footprint. So, whether it's helping you go in and understand where a specific application sits within the AWS well-architected framework, for example, how are you doing from a security perspective, performance excellence perspective, cost management perspective. We spend a lot of time helping customers improve their existing environments. If you gave us the opportunity to have a conversation with you about exactly where you are in your journey, we could probably more effectively speak to that. But short answer is that even though you already are engaged with another customer, CDW can absolutely help depending on wherever you are in your migration journey.
Thanks, Tim. Guess I would add to that too. I hit on it early in the presentation. Some of the other things that CDW could do for a client, we maybe play a role in managing that environment after the migration. And we have various options for that. We kind of meet clients where they are and give them a level of support from as simple as helping them understand the FinOps aspect of their AWS environment where they can save money, all the way up to full on acting as a member of the IT staff and managing that whole environment. So I think about managed services. The other thing that we help a lot of clients do is transact software licensing through AWS Marketplace, which can be a way to retire commitments you might have in place with Amazon. And that's fine if you're using another partner. That's a way that CDW can help. Highly likely that if you're working with us, you procure some kind of software licensing through CDW, or we're your partner for that, and we can help you transact that through AWS Marketplace, which has financial benefit that we're experts in, frankly. Any other questions out there? Well, I certainly won't belabor the point then. It doesn't seem like I have anything else coming through the chat. As mentioned, Tim, Taylor, myself, we're here to talk to you about AWS migrations. If you're here today, we thank you for your business. You're great. Like to talk to any CDW customers about their AWS initiatives and find ways that CDW can help bring value or investment or a programmatic approach to your AWS journey. That's what my folks do best, and we look forward to your outreach. Again, connect with your account manager or hit us up. Our email contact's here. Thank you so much for coming today.